Respected viewers, dear family of dreamers, beloved listeners, welcome. Sit with me for a moment, breathe, allow the noise of the world to soften. Because today, we're not just talking about houses or money or investments, we're talking about the quiet details that decide destinies. Have you ever noticed how life rarely changes in one dramatic moment? But instead, in the smallest, almost invisible decisions, a step taken when no one is watching, a dollar saved when spending would be easier, a risk whispered to yourself in the dark, time moves silently, wealth grows quietly, and success often hides inside things the world calls too small to matter, until one day, those tiny things become everything. Most people think homes sell because of size, location, granite countertops, big renovations, but seasoned investors, the ones who have scars, stories, and patience in their bones, they know something different. They know buyers fall in love before they ever open the front door. They know a home is chosen emotionally and justified logically later. And sometimes what tips the scale isn't a $20,000 remodel, but a $40 detail that whispers, "This place has been cared for." I learned this lesson the hard way, the expensive way, the slow way. There was a time when I thought money was built through big moves only. Big flips, big deals, big risks. I ignored the little things because I was in a hurry to make it. I grew up watching money disappear as fast as it came. Bills stacked on the kitchen table like quiet threats. Adults whispering about next month like it was some magical rescue that never arrived. When you grow up around scarcity, you start believing speed is survival. You rush. You grab. You swing hard. My first property investment was full of that energy, rushed, desperate, loud with ambition, but quiet on wisdom. I scraped together everything I had, borrowed a little, promised myself this would be the deal that changed my life. I focused on the big visible upgrades, fresh paint, new flooring, shiny light fixtures. I spent where it looked impressive in photos, but I ignored the mailbox that leaned slightly to one side. I didn't notice the faded house numbers. The front door handle was scratched. The walkway had weeds pushing through cracks. Minor, I told myself. No one cares about that. But buyers do. Even if they don't realize it, people walked through that house, nodded politely, said it was nice, and left. Weeks passed, then months. Every day it didn't sell, my confidence drained a little more. Holding costs piled up like silent punishment. I remember sitting in my car outside that property one evening, hands on the steering wheel, wondering if I had made a terrible mistake, wondering if I just wasn't cut out for this world of investing everyone else seemed to understand. It wasn't the market, it wasn't the price, it wasn't even the layout. It was the feeling. One afternoon, an older agent walked through with buyer and lingered outside longer than inside. He ran his hand along the mailbox, crooked, rust beginning to bloom. He looked at the front step, chipped paint, tired welcome mat. He didn't say much, but before leaving, he told me quietly, "First impressions don't shout, they whisper, and whispers decide." That sentence stayed with me longer than any seminar or spreadsheet ever did. I went back the next day with less than $100 and a bruised ego. I replaced the mailbox with a clean, classic one, straight, solid. I added bold, modern house numbers. I power washed the walkway, put 2 simple potted plants by the door, oiled the hinges so the door opened without a sound. Nothing flashy, nothing expensive, just care, visible care. The next showing, the buyers smiled before they stepped inside. That house sold within the week. Here's the lesson most people miss. Wealth isn't built by dramatic gestures alone. It's built by attention, by standards, by the discipline to do small things well, even when no one is clapping, especially when no one is clapping. The same mindset that ignores a crooked mailbox, ignores a $10 monthly investment, ignores learning how money really works, ignores reading one more page, making one more call, improving one more skill. We sabotage our financial future not through giant mistakes, but through tiny neglects repeated daily. I know the fear of starting small. I know the voice that says, "This won't make her." That voice kept me broke longer than any lack of opportunity ever did. I used to think if I couldn't invest thousands, there was no point investing hundreds. If I couldn't buy a big property, why bother with a modest one? Pride disguised as logic. Impatience disguised as ambition. But money, real, lasting money, respects patience more than pride. Think about a buyer walking toward a home. Before they know the square footage, before they see the kitchen, they've already felt something. The mailbox is straight, the paint is fresh, the path is clean. Subconsciously, they think if they cared about this, they probably cared about everything else too. That is trust, built in seconds, through details. Your financial life works the same way. Lenders, partners, opportunities, they respond to signals. Do you pay on time? Do you track your numbers? Do you follow through? Do you treat small commitments like big ones? These are your financial curb appeal. And most people never polish it because no one taught them that small signals unlock big doors. I had early business failures that came from the same blindness. I'd chase revenue but ignore systems. I'd celebrate a big month but ignore tiny leaks draining cash quietly. Subscriptions I forgot to cancel, inventory miscounts, minor inefficiencies, each one too small to worry about. Together, they were the difference between profit and stress. Success doesn't collapse from one dramatic explosion. It erodes from unattended details. And here's the beautiful part, the hopeful part, the part I wish someone had told me when I was younger and scared and counting coins at the grocery store. Details are affordable. You don't need millions to build the habits of a millionaire. You don't need a huge portfolio to think like an investor. You can start with the financial equivalent of a straight mailbox, a clean walkway, a polished front door. Track every dollar for 1 month, not to judge yourself, but to understand yourself. Automate a small investment that feels almost too small to matter and leave it alone. Read contracts before signing. Ask one more question. Learn one new concept about money each week. These are tiny acts, almost invisible, but they reshape your identity. Because when you start honoring small details, you start seeing yourself differently, not as someone hoping for a break, but as someone building quietly, intentionally, patiently. Delayed gratification isn't glamorous. No one throws a party because you didn't spend money today. No one applauds when you reinvest profits instead of upgrading your lifestyle. But those quiet decisions, repeated for years, are what separate people who look wealthy for a moment from those who become financially unshakable. That little mailbox taught me more about investing than any flashy success story ever could. It taught me that buyers are human and humans respond to care. It taught me that perception shapes value. And it taught me that the investor I needed to become wasn't more aggressive, but more attentive. So when you feel overwhelmed, when wealth feels far away, when your goals look too big and your resources feel too small, don't freeze. Don't wait for a dramatic breakthrough. Look for the smallest improvement you can make today. The financial equivalent of straightening the mailbox, cleaning the path, making your future feel cared for. Because destiny, just like a home sale, often turns not on the grand gestures, but on the quiet proof that someone paid attention, and that someone has to be you, and that someone has to be you. The truth most people never see is that progress often feels invisible while it's happening. You fix one small habit, nothing changes. You save one small amount, nothing changes. You improve one tiny detail in a property, a business, a system, still nothing dramatic happens. And that's the moment most people quit. Not because it doesn't work, but because it doesn't feel like it's working. Part of maturing financially is learning to detach from applause. Early on, I wanted proof, fast proof. I wanted the market to reward me immediately so I could feel safe, validated, certain. But investing doesn't care about your need for reassurance. It rewards consistency long after excitement fades. There were months when I tracked every expense and D still felt broke. Months when I improved systems in my business, but revenue stayed flat. Months when I made cosmetic and emotional upgrades to properties that no one complimented. It felt like whispering into a canyon, waiting for an echo that didn't come. But here's what was happening beneath the surface. My discipline was compounding. Just like interest in an account you don't check daily, the returns were building in silence. My standards were rising. My eye for detail was sharpening. My patience muscle was strengthening. I was becoming the kind of person who notices the crooked mailbox before a buyer ever does. The kind of investor who sees small leaks before they become floods. That identity shift is everything. Because once you become someone who respects small details, you can't go back. You walk through life differently. You review deals more carefully. You ask better questions. You notice red flags earlier. You maintain assets better. You build trust faster. And trust in business, in investing, in life is a currency more powerful than cash. There is a quiet season every serious investor goes through, where the work is heavy but the rewards are light, where you're planting seeds in soil that looks unchanged. This is where emotional discipline is forged, not when deals are closing and numbers are rising, but when effort feels disconnected from outcome. In those seasons, I learned to measure different wins, Not just money in, but mistakes avoided. Not just growth, but stability. Not just expansion, but resilience. Did I review my numbers this week? Did I improve one system? Did I make one decision my old self would have avoided out of fear? Those became my scorecard. And slowly, almost invisibly, opportunities started responding. Better partners trusted me because I was thorough. Lenders took me seriously because my records were clean. Buyers felt comfortable in homes I touched because every detail signaled care. None of that came from one big reek through. It came from years of small, disciplined, sometimes boring actions. People want the highlight reel, but wealth is built in the quiet maintenance. It's checking the roof before it leaks. It's setting aside reserves when you could spend. It's upgrading the little things that make others feel safe, welcomed, confident. When a buyer sees a well-kept exterior, they relax. When a partner sees organized books, they relax. When you see your own discipline reflected in your habits, you relax. And a calm investor makes better decisions than an emotional one every single time. So if you are in a season where results feel slow, where you're doing the right things but life hasn't caught up yet, don't misread the silence. Roots grow in the dark. Foundations are poured below ground. The strongest financial lives are built where no one is looking, through choices that feel small, repetitive, and uncelebrated. This is where real confidence is born, not from fast wins, but from knowing, deep down, that you are becoming someone who doesn't skip the details, someone who doesn't cut corners, someone who understands that tiny signals shape massive outcomes, and who has the patience to let time do its quiet, miraculous work, There comes a moment in this journey where the anxiety begins to loosen its grip, not because everything is perfect, but because you finally trust yourself. You trust your process. You trust your standards. You trust that even if a deal falls through, even if the market shifts, even if progress feels slow, you are no longer the person who overlooks the small things that protect the big picture. That is peace, earned, not given. You start walking properties differently. You notice the feeling before the features. You understand that value is emotional before it is numerical. A straight mailbox, clean lines, soft lighting, a cared-for entrance. These are signals of stewardship, and de-stewardship is what wealth truly is. Not flashy spending, not loud success, but quiet responsibility repeated over time. And something even deeper changes. Your relationship with money softens. Money stops feeling like a desperate chase and starts feeling like a reflection of your patience, your consistency, your attention. You no longer rush decisions just to feel movement. You no longer stretch beyond your capacity just to look successful. You move when it's right. You wait when it's wise. You improve what you already have before reaching for more. That calm, that grounded pace is where sustainable wealth lives. The world will always try to pull you back into urgency, bigger, faster, now. But you've seen what happens when you slow down enough to care about the details. You've seen how small improvements change perception, how perception changes trust, and how trust opens financial doors that force never could. You begin to understand that every asset you touch, every dollar you manage, every opportunity you evaluate is like that front entrance to a home. It asks you a simple question: will you treat this with care? And when your answer is yes, consistently, patiently, wealth stops being something you chase and becomes something you quietly attract. Because disciplined energy is magnetic. And one day, without a dramatic announcement, without a single fireworks moment, you look around and realize your life feels different. Your finances feel steadier. Your decisions feel clearer. Your stress feels lighter. Not because you made one giant leap, but because you honored 1,000 tiny responsibilities along the way. You became someone who understands that small details are not small at all. They are the language of excellence, the signature of trust, the foundation of lasting success. And that understanding, that steady, humble mastery of the little things is what allows you to build wealth with a calm heart, a clear mind, and a deep, able sense of enough. Beloved listeners, dear family of dreamers, let us take a deep breath together and feel the weight of everything we've journeyed through. The story of the tiny mailbox, the chipped walkway, the details no one applauded. It is your story too. Every dollar tracked when no one noticed, every habit built in silence, every patient decision made when results were invisible. These are the brushstrokes of your financial masterpiece. Wealth, real lasting wealth, is not loud. It is not instantaneous. It is quiet, intentional, and deeply personal. You are learning that abundance is a reflection of your discipline, your vision, and your care. Every small choice compounds, every detail matters, every act of patience, delayed gratification, and consistent attention sends a ripple across your life that, in time, becomes unstoppable. The crooked mailbox straightened, the small investment made, the habit formed, they are not trivial. They are the proof that you respect yourself, your goals, and your future. And here is the gift, the peace that comes from knowing this. The world may rush, may tempt you with shortcuts, may celebrate the flashy and the fast, but you have chosen the deeper path, the path where vision meets patience, where discipline meets love for what you are building, where every silent sacrifice strengthens your foundation. That path leads not just to wealth, but to clarity, calm confidence, and inner peace. So walk it with pride, with steady hands, with eyes that see the small things, for in those small things lives the power to transform your life, the power to attract opportunities, the power to create trust, the power to build a future that is unshakable, abundant, and deeply yours. Remember, your destiny is quietly being written in the details, the things too small for others to notice, but too powerful for you to ignore. Care for them, honor them, and watch as the life you've imagined slowly, inevitably, beautifully unfolds, because abundance, vision, patience, discipline, and inner peace are all born from the same humble truth that greatness is built, one mindful detail at a time.